College Football Live is presented by New Degree Men Absolute Protection and in part by Las Vegas. Crazy time calls for crazy fun. Go to visitlasvegas.com.
Big shoes to fill out there at quarterback. Oregon trying to replace the dynamic Dennis Dixon. Still undecided at quarterback between sophomores Nate Costa and Justin Roper. Tulsa had one of the nation's best quarterbacks last season in Paul Smith. They'll open this season at UAB, likely play both fifth-year senior David Johnson and JUCO transfer Jacob Bauer. At Kentucky, they'll try to replace Andre Woodson and his 40 touchdown passes with Brian Hartline. He won the job by default after Curtis Pulley was kicked off the team earlier this year. And Hawaii, of course, lost Heisman finalist Colt Brennan, then lost his backup, Tyler Gronke, because of personal reasons. Brent Roush, who played 8-man football in high school, will be the starter week 1 at Florida. And at Boston College, the Eagles have to replace NFL first-round draft pick Matt Ryan. All he did was throw for over 4,000 yards. Chris Spring is the man now, bringing in ESPN.com writer and blogger Heather.
Welcome back to College Football Live, presented by Degree Men.
So you want to get to a BCS bowl game and you're from a small conference. Utah has high hopes this season. They'll open on the road in the Big House. Maybe the best time to catch the Wolverines this season. Still looking for a quarterback. BYU's BCS hopes may rest on the arm of quarterback Max Hall this season. The Cougars have to travel to Seattle in week 2 to tackle Jake Locker and company at UW. If Fresno survives a trip to Rutgers in week 1, their home clash with the 13th-ranked Wisconsin Badgers is huge. A game Fresno coach Pat Hill calls the biggest game in the Valley's history. Ian Johnson and Boise State try to get back to a BCS Bowl for a second time. They've got a tough week 4 matchup at Autzen Stadium against the Oregon Ducks. Boise finishes the year with Fresno State. And speaking of finishes, what if BYU and Utah ran the table? They'll meet in Salt Lake City on November 22nd, a game that would take this old rivalry to a new level. Now, when most people think of BYU, they think of offense with Steve Young, Ty Detmer, Jim McMahon. But the defense fits the bill as the Cougars finished in the top 10 in the nation in scoring defense, rush defense, and total defense last season. Joe Schad standing by. Provo on line 1, Joe.
Joined here on College Football Live by Bronco Mendenhall, head coach of the BYU Cougars, owners of the nation's longest winning streak. Coach, number 16 preseason ranking. I know you've labeled this season the quest for perfection. Tell me why you chose that as the slogan for this year.
Well, it's not only for this year, even though that has been our theme selected, but I've worked very hard and our team has worked very hard, and now going in our 4th year of just aligning our program with this institution. And it's such a unique place with such a unique purpose. The mission of the institution is to aid each individual in their quest for perfection. So I thought, what better way to make sure the football team represents the institution than do that? I know the outside world's thinking that we're talking about being undefeated. Really, we're talking about simply making sure that we represent this institution the best way possible.
Bronco, last 2 years, Hawaii and Boise State out of the Western Athletic Conference have gone to the BCS bowl games. What, in your opinion, is the comparison between the WAC and the strength of the Mountain West Conference, which your team plays in?
I think the Mountain West Conference is stronger from top to bottom. I do acknowledge that the WAC has a number of strong teams. What I think you'll see is if you look at the Mountain West Conference, I think from top to bottom it's stronger and more consistent and I think more competitive on a yearly basis than the other conference.
BYU has had some awesome quarterbacks, including Ty Detmer, Steve Young, and Jim McMahon. I know you've compared your quarterback, Max Hall, to Jim McMahon. Tell me why.
Well, I've compared Max to Jim McMahon simply from a competitive and fiery spirit. When he's on the field, I've seen no one, at least that I've coached on offense or defense, that's as competitive as Max. And many times it works to his advantage, working hard to create plays even outside of the system. And he just simply, in any critical situation, refuses to get beat. He's just that type of young man. And so I think that as you look at BYU's history and over time, that comparison, while it might not be the same in personality on the field, I think it's very similar.
And finally, Coach, gut feeling, this team, BYU, do you believe it will go undefeated this season?
I think we have a great chance to be consistent from beginning to end. On any given year, it's very difficult to go undefeated, as you just look at the number of undefeated teams of the 100 and whatever there is, 20 Division I football programs. On any given year, it's hard to be undefeated. I think we have enough talent. I think we have enough maturity. I think we have a strong enough work ethic. But I know the best way not to go undefeated, and that's have that as the only goal. And so right now it's Northern Iowa, and that's all we will really consider at this point.
Bronco Mendenhall, whose team has won 21 of 23 games. Thanks for joining us today on College Football Live.
It's my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right, Joe, thank you
for the national championship. But you spend the entire offseason looking at that schedule, looking at those games against the big teams, the teams from the BCS schools. What it does when you win them, though, it brings pride to your program. It brings recognition to your program. And look what it did for Appalachian State. That's going to be one heck of a matchup with Utah against BYU. And, I think games will get closer. More upsets will happen because of the 85 scholarship limit.
And you winning the Heisman Trophy there as well. That really opened up some eyes to those smaller schools. Now, Molly Karam back.
College Football Live is presented by New Degree Men Absolute Protection.